Hello, this is a 2014/2015 VW Up. It's got an issue with the fans for the air conditioning. When you have them on, they're not working. Also the rear wiper doesn't work either when that's asked to be switched on. And then also the cigarette lighter doesn't get any power. Neither does the Parrot that is plugged in and been plugged in for years. One of the things that we did to fault find was to have a look. Let me just take that off the tripod. Let's have a look in the fuse box, which is under there. That fuse box contains a couple of fuses for smoker in one of the lists of fuses I saw, and then also for air conditioning plant and things like that. All of the fuses in there are okay. So this is a UK right-hand drive VW Up, and then you can see here on this panel there's a little indent there, so you can flip that, pull this panel out, and in there you can see some relays. So the top left relay there we took out, which is the one that's closed for terminal 75 apparently. Took the relay out and did some diagnostics checks on that. And the way I did diagnostics check on the relay is just doing continuity check when you apply 12 volts to the positive and negative terminals. So that didn't show up any issues. We then swapped those two relays over, and we're still not getting any power to the cigarette lighter, the fans and the rear wiper. Google and YouTube and everything else then pointed to the fact that it could be the ignition switch. So the ignition is under here and the switch is on the back side. If I just show that, this is the key over here, and the ignition switch is on this side of the steering column here. So I don't need to remove the airbag, I don't need to remove the steering wheel or any of the shifters or anything like that. I need to just remove one screw from under here, which is that one there. So there's one Torx bit in there, and then that frees off the top of the steering cowl, so I can lift that off and then turn the steering wheel to the 90 degrees, and then the screw will be visible under here. So I'm just going to undo those that bolt underneath at the moment. So here's the Torx bit driver underneath there, and that is a T25. It just unscrews, and that's the T25 screw or bolt. Before I switch to the T20, I'll use a flat blade screwdriver just up inside the cowling there and just separate that, and that lifts that off. And now you can see the Torx bolt here. That's the T20. There we go. So a bit of furkling and finagling. The keyhole here, there, and then if we follow it through the metal housing for it, you'll see on the back unit, on the back here, is the key switch, the ignition switch, and that goes into the ignition key barrel. And then out of the back of it as well, you'll see a cable harness just up here. So that needs to be disconnected. Then this black ignition switch can be removed. But you can see it looks exactly the same. The plug looks like it's going to be the same fit. It's the same part number on the sticker. Well, I can't see any part number on here. It's a £8.99 eBay part. So chances are it might not work, but for a tenner I'd rather do that than take it to a proper main dealer. I can't see on here how I remove this key switch, this ignition switch, but I can't see any screws that hold it to the metal body. The new one, I've spent a little bit of time looking at it, and you can see that there's a retaining clip on this side here, so that you should be able to reach that down this little slot here with a flat bladed screwdriver, a terminal screwdriver. And then there's also another sprung one here on this side of the switch as well, so that'll need pressing in to remove the switch. But you'll notice that you're not going to get a screwdriver down there, so what there is instead, there's this tiny hole that you can see my jeans through there. Time in the kitchen trying to find an implement that will do the job, and we've just come up with this little kebab skewer that should go through that hole there, and it should depress that when that's in the steering column. So that's how I'm going to try and remove the current switch that's already in. Actually, there's a little black tag on the back of the plug, so that if you, by pressing this black thing here, pushing it downwards, that releases the catch that allows you to pull the plug out of the ignition switch. So that bit's done. Good. And now just to get into the one hole with my little shiny stick, and then I'll need to poke something like a terminal screwdriver or something quite thin down this back side here to see if that will free it off. Try that now. Well, that didn't go as easily as planned. I had to break it open in the end because all the tools are tried, from paper clips to bulldog clips to screwdrivers to kebab skewers, didn't seem to want to get in and depress that. So in the end I had to take it apart, so I ripped the front off, and then I was able to get in with a skewer on this one and a skewer on that one when I could see better where they were getting in, and I wasn't restricted by the little hole in the front of the switch. So that little hole there, that was restricting me from getting the clip onto the right place. But as you can see, if it wasn't knackered before, the switch is definitely knackered now. This one should all be set up, so it just needs to be pressed in. As long as I haven't done any damage to the key barrel, which I don't think I have. Let's put the screen back on so I can see what I'm doing. So that's going to go in there, and then should hopefully just clip in, which it has done. It's all seated in there nice. So that's in. And then also I find it easier to undo this one as well from underneath the steering wheel. To undo that, you pull the little red tag down. There's a little red tag in it, you can just see it, so you pull it down, push the little tag in there, and that frees it. So I'm going to put that back into the steering wheel connector and then put the little red tag in. And I'm going to try that. So you can see we've got that. Let's just check the fans are working on the air conditioner. There they are. And also the rear wiper, which it wasn't working before. So to put this back in, this part here sticks on the inside, and then you can see that you've got the little wedges on the side. So one wedge is there, the other wedge into the other side, into the right place, and then that just wedges underneath that little catch there, and that is all in the right place now. Underneath, into the right location, and you can see that the lock there wants to get caught on the rubber. It's too far backwards, so I need to wiggle it a little bit that way, and that is in the right location. Again, this is T25. It's quite a tricky one to find, this one. We've got Parrot. We've got the crappy little Bluetooth. Got some fans. And the other one thing that didn't work, Star Wars dice that he's got, nice. The other thing that didn't work was the rear wiper. Well, that's brilliant that that works.